Which one do you have right there?
I have both in front of me right now.
Okay. Show the one where they're bum rushing the masjid and I'm standing in the door. And that is the attempted Arab takeover. We call it by the white shoe Arabs, the attempted Arab takeover of the masjid.
His wife is on the phone. Come on, we going to Juma. Come on, this is our masjid. Yeah, this belongs to the people. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Allah gave us the position. Allah gave you the position. Allah gave you the position. I'm sorry, don't even let him invent. Don't make him even push you. Because he wants that. Don't worry. Come on. Yeah, come on, we going to Juma. No, we going to Juma. Watch out, Imam Musa. Imam Musa. Watch out, brother. No, you can't come, brother. No, Imam Musa. This is a little shit, Imam Musa. You my kids. No, you gonna push it.
The one where my son, has a phone. Mm-hmm. He comes in, Mukhtar is giving football or something like that. And my son is talking on the phone to me. Mm-hmm.
As-Sabiqun.
My son is standing there with the phone, and Mukhtar is talking to us. Gangster talk.
Archivist being put first, accept the deen al-haq, the true way of life, Islam.
I'll pause that real quick. Give me 1 second, because it messed up.
Okay, I'm going to start anyway, and then you, whenever you get it, you can. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. We just wanted to have another program today, and this is hopefully it'll be interesting. And what did we call this? Documentalist, Chronicle, Lies, Archives, or Archivist, and Historian. Remember, those are the things that we talked about in the very beginning, that we're going to chronicle, you know, when you chronicle lives, you keep a record. We're going to chronicleize what we're doing. And that has to do with the historization of the reality that we're living in. So we're given a historiological view of the environment in which we're living in and working in our time. And not only we working in it and thriving in it, but we have, when we finish, you'll see, and you'll see from what is being presented, we have dominated this period. Other stuff, you was, that ain't dominated. Or you was beat upside the head, you was this and that. That's part of the dominating environment. It's not, I mean, when you came to visit me at the hospital, I probably looked moderately pitiful, you know what I mean? I mean, because I got these things in my head and, my head is kind of pointed and I can't talk. You would think, if you can remember, what did I say? Optimism. Optimism. Forget all that other stuff. Don't worry about what it looks like. Okay? We've been doing that for many, many years. And nobody else did that before. You don't hear about none of the Islamic movements or the black movements going through the process that we go through, right? None of them. They might have had a few fights, a few arguments, or they might have beat up Mr. Black Nationalist by the other semi. But right, they had some, but it ain't nothing like this. It's them against each other, but it's never a historical record of us against the whole system and everybody in the system, right? When we go over what we've been dealing with, you'll see that I had to be very particular, and that there's times when, right here, everybody packed up and left. And we had wonderful demonstrations, right? Everything is popular. School running at 100,000 miles an hour. Which one is that?
This is the one he's, McCarthy and Copa.
Right.
And your son shows up.
All right. Just put that on right away.
For a couple days. I came here searching for the truth. I came with the other administration. They allowed reward to them on me because I wouldn't have known this guy at all. They allowed reward him. This is Juma. This is Juma. This is Juma. Don't talk to this on the phone. We don't talk during Juma. Brother, we don't talk on the phone. We don't talk to him. Now y'all see what these brothers doing? This guy is a powerful king, and he needs to move out of the way right now. We are doing Juma. We'll talk to you after Juma. My father told me. I don't care what he say. I don't care what he say. I'm in here.
All you have to do is see how tough he's acting, right? Mm-hmm. How often has he acted that way with the white man? Right? Now, I talk tough, but you see, when I talk tough, it's never to the people. It's always the boss man. Right? It's always the boss man, never to the people. How to punk the FBI, right? How to punk the FBI. It ain't never to the people. You niggas is a bunch of punks and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Why? Because historically, what we did here, they always organized the Negroes to fight the Negroes. I refused. I think I mentioned this many times. I refuse. Why do I refuse? Because every time they destroyed a black group, it was by another black group either destroying the other one or opening the door for boss man to come in and knock that one over, and then later on the one that opened the door is knocked over too. Just like historically we've always told our people, you mess with boss man gonna knock you over, and then he gonna knock them over and get you to participate, then he gonna come get you. Look at Afghanistan today. What are the poor Afghanis saying? The ones that was with him. God dog. How many times have we said that? We said it so much that our mouth is puffed up, turning white, saying that. It always happens like that. It ain't no big prediction, because that's boss man's behavior. Okay, what we had to do over the years is we had to develop a policy and a program and activity where we can arrive at where we are right now. Okay? We are not at the same place we was 2 weeks ago or a month ago. You can probably hear in the attitude and everything that, okay, now we're going on the offensive. We're going on the offensive. Not a physical offensive like we're going to do this to them. No, absolutely not. We don't have to. When you look at right there at this thing, you have what we call the white shoe Arabs, right? With Mukhtar and Khadijah crashing the masjid in Oakland that we opened and we built. Right? And you have that, and then you have Mukhtar with the police, right? You can see Mukhtar right here. The guy is with the police. And the police, you see the way they done took me out of the masjid. I'm in the masjid, technically I'm taking an enema. You know, like I done ran and everything and I'm cleaning out, which I do normally. And they got me barefooted and naked. Now, if he was a real Negro and he had some associating with me and I hadn't stole nothing from him, I haven't done, who would do that? Unless you are full of hatred and envy and you 100% for boss man, right? This is what boss man wants, right? You have never seen us act like that or talk like that to anybody. The other thing, the world is paying attention, the world that he don't like. Think about it. Iran has been here longer than we have, or long as we have. We've been here longer, technically. But what has it been going through? All of that time, from day one up to now, and these dummies are talking about Iran is having it hard. Having it hard, you idiot. They've been had it hard for 40-something years, right? They fought Saddam Hussein to a standstill, and we call it World War III. The whole world was with boss man, everybody. Saudi Arabia, $50 billion. Kuwait, $33 billion. Jordanian regulars, Egyptian pilots and engineers, right? All of those Sudanese mercenaries, all of them, T-72 tanks from Russia, right? Chieftain tanks from Great Britain, poison gas from Germany, everything to defeat Iran. And Iran stood tall. That don't happen, that does not happen. And then they just cruised right along. It was tough on them, but they made it. Look at us right here. You don't see us going after nobody defenseless, right? And here showing up on the front page, if you were to be able to read this, first you could tell Walayati Faqih. You know, you read Arabic, I remember, because you was correcting me a couple of times. I mean, a long time ago, right? Fitna, you could tell, because these words are the same in Arabic, you know, fitna. Okay. Don't worry about why they made this, because they may be making this to show everybody on their team. You know, you could tell who, when I say their team. Just visualize the Islamic movement right now. Hezbollah is still there with unbelievable stuff that happened to everybody. Yemen, it's unbelievable. What do you mean? Starving the people to death for all of those years for nothing. And they still there. right? Okay, you got to now look at it like this. All of our people have the same characteristics. Even when Syria gets in the club, with the help of others, Syria hangs on. I'll show you all a booklet from 1982. Why Syria? Because Syria is Ba'athist, just like Saddam. But Syria never went against Iran. Syria was the only Arab country that backed Iran. Syria was the only country that let Iranians come through, go to Lebanon. Remember in the old days, Syria was controlling Lebanon since 1975. And they let them build up Hezbollah. They can say what they want. But all these people have been kicking behind, and they have resiliency beyond anything you can. You don't see nobody in the world with that kind of resilience. I mean, in modern times. In the old days, you saw China had it with the long march and holding on and all of that stuff. And now economically, they come mumbling to us about China do this. We're watching China closer than anybody. Don't you worry about China. But no, you better worry about them. Because they done bumped your behind. Boss man, he's bumped. He is bumped. Okay. Now, to get to this point about the purpose of archivism, to have the archives of all of this. So nobody will be able to come and say that this just happened. And the TV and all of that stuff, they won't be able to do us like they did Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. They get hold to the few videos, few records that they made in those days, and then they have little addendums to what they're really talking about, or sometimes they give out the whole record. You know, Battle of the Bullets, like. You see what I mean? Okay. They can't do that with us. Why? Remember grand jury approach, all of that? After you look at what we've been doing, you could tell that we have not been playing with nobody, and we've been wearing out boss man. We have educated the people on him over and over and over again. If you get one or two of these, long as they are, these videos, right, and then you get 4 or 5 of them, you got the answer. This that has happened during our time is because this was what has been needed for the time in which we live. We live in our time. And as human beings, we have to research our time, the patterns of behavior, the living. What do we need? So we need someone to archive and chronicleize. Not only to get the archives, but to chronicleize it, step by step by step, right? So that anybody that wants to affect the system can take that pattern, right? And wherever you stopped, they can adjust and add on to that with whatever skill they can acquire. But with what we have now, we have all of these arrests. This is a deed. This is our deed to the Masjid in Oakland. Yeah, it's the deed to the Masjid in Oakland. It has Clarence Reams up here at Masjid al-Islam. Paid the tax. Clarence Reams right here again, signature, right? They have Mukhtar and them bum rushing. And Mukhtar is telling a story. I've been here since I was 13 years old. The nigga's lying. He's lying, and I'm going to tell him that he's been lying. And I'm going to make fun of, well, first of all, when you start adding up, none of that's 13 years old. He hasn't been as 13. It's impossible, right? He just wasn't there when he was 13. Maybe 19 or 20. Because he had a kid when he got there. He wasn't no baby. He had his son, his son. Yeah. Okay, anyway. Mukhtar, this is the new deed that they gave this company. Mukhtar sold our properties 8105 to 8111 to 8121. Sold it all. Yeah, sold it all. But he didn't have no right to do it, right? And I got all the other, I don't have time to go through, I'm going to try to be quicker this time. We have everything laid out on their paperwork from their trials. You know what he said in court, another thing, right? So he's on record as saying certain things. They told him, I think I might have read it to y'all before. Well, Mr. Mujahid, you became the chief of staff down here in 2014, 2013, and 2012. When was it? Well, I shouldn't have said that. But in my own mind, I had became, yeah. The court don't go with what's in your mind. So when I get them on the witness stand, I'm gonna slap them around so bad, because they ain't gonna have no idea where I'm coming from. I'm gonna ask the questions that they've already answered, or ask a whole new set of questions, then come back with the questions that they've already answered in the other court. And he's going to try to cram, both of them are going to try to cram and remember. And it's like a test, especially when you making this, making that. And I'm going to tease them. I'm going to have fun with them, because I'm going to be just as black and confident. And I'm not going to be sounding like no damn fool like we do here. I mean, not like we sound like fools, but I'm going to sound like an attorney. I'm going to use attorney-fied diction. Oh, yes. We've been planning this stuff. You could tell this has been in the works for decades. Decades, yeah, because, see, we had to have a plan, a rescue plan, based on the war that's being fought against us, right? The attacks that's being launched on us. And we have to make an assessment. This is a nice brother here. Boy, look at here. Do you know that the government in Oakland, I couldn't file no report on this, but I got a letter from the county of Alameda saying that we understand that you had some attack and that you can get some type of restitution, or you might be injured so bad that you may need assistance and time to recover. You know, they got them type of programs, assistance programs. I got the letter from the county, but they wouldn't take when I would call them. And remember, I got all the numbers that I call the city. I call the police department. I call the desk after this, and it has their numbers. And I call the captain of the police department. You know, did we know, or they know? We did all of that, right? And the captain told me in one of the talks, okay, my kids is in summer school or something, and soon as they get out, I'll get with you. The only thing is, that was the wrong week for summer school. The kids was already out. They had passed that. And then we have all the dates, because you know on your phone they have all the dates, you have the exact time, and you have how many times you called a number. That number is the gang unit, the police unit, and that's the person. In other words, and then, well, we've shown all this stuff before. But see, this is Pete and Charlotte and what have you. And, okay, all that's fine. But we have, this is one of the Bobos we had, and this is how bad, look how bad that house used to look that we live in now. Remember how bad it used to look? It was terrible. It was dilapidated and falling down. It was dilapidated. That's why nobody wanted it. I looked at that boy, I said, that's great. No, we put a cathedral ceiling in there. You know, it don't look like that to nobody else, but to us, this is great. After living in the room back there, downstairs, right? Shoot, it's a cathedral. Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. The president of Iran that nobody over here likes. And the tattletale Iranian has President Ahmadinejad, or they call the hospital GW. Before I'm getting ready to go into the operating room, my kids are down there and they call from Iran. And the president says in broken English, I hope you do okay. That's stuff like that. Although I was halfway under. Our people, you don't have to worry. Why are we so dedicated to this? Because they knock over our people. If you make one mistake, they'll kill you, right? You make one mistake, they'll kill you. Everybody know that Imam Luqman was not a thief. Everybody know the white boy or whoever it was brought him that stuff, right? Just go and look at it. That's all they wanted to look at this stuff. That's why if somebody called me, well, we want you to come and check it out yourself. I don't know what you're talking about. I ain't going nowhere. If you want to help, you convert that into cash and then bring it by and we'll take it. Maybe. But you have to remember the history. See, we have been studying our history. We have been studying our people. This is not a haphazard deal. We have been studying our people. We've been studying the enemies of our people. And we've been doing good. There ain't nobody got no record like this, especially, we'll get to it in a minute. We are to the point to where we manipulate the system. Well, we've been there a long, long time to where we manipulate the system. We have it do what we want it to do. If you don't believe it, just a little simple stuff. Like, let me show you here. If you could come up and look at these, the numbers. I know you don't want to. Okay. Now, that's your number. And now look at no caller ID. Then no caller ID, no caller ID, no caller ID, no caller ID. And that was yesterday, right? And then when you get down, you're going to get to their actual, where they're using, that's their number right there, 2 calls. And we keep, remember the white man on the line or the Negro on the line? That means you got them hooked, right? You can't find no phone where I'm calling them all the time, right? I never call them. I never call them. One time, you know that those pocket calls where you sit down or something, and I looked at it, so it couldn't be over 30 seconds when it show up on the time thing, and I ain't said nothing. I remember, okay, now, you got to remember what kind of program you're going to have when you can domesticate the system of the United States government. What's the system that you can combine and use at a certain time in the history of yourself and the history of the system when your earned credibility is at a high point and their credibility is at a low point and getting lower? The Americans run out of Korea, ran out of Vietnam, ran out of wherever it is. Right? Run out of Afghanistan, got run out of Iraq. They haven't won nothing. With all the people they kill. These brutal murderers, man. And what effect do they have on us? None. Absolutely none. Now I'm going to try to get into, we was calling it we'll call it boss man on the line. If you see them call me that many times, after I said what I said the other day, see, we're sitting in here and I say this on the phone, right? And the next day, they load up. I might answer one time and then hang up. And they call back, 3 or 4, back. Why? Because I got them on the line. I'm reeling them in. Okay, this is going to sound funny, but you got to remember, we have to fight what's handed to us, and we got to manipulate that. That's the difference between us and other Negro leaders. This would sound ridiculous. That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. Well, you're not going to win nothing either. It ain't going to work. One of my best friends, he couldn't do this stuff because it takes humor. You know what I mean? And he ain't nothing as funny. I said, man, you got to loosen up. You know what I mean? He had the game down. He knew these guys here, hey, they ain't worth a dime. And you could see it with the sons and everything. You can see that we ain't lied on nobody. Okay. So that leaves us, and we're going to get into what we have to do. No. What we have to do is not correct. What we have done, what we intend to do. But, well, let me get to some of this. So, this is just today, this morning. Well, it says, I got the system, or we got the system. We got the system spooked and confused. Let me go over that again. We got the system spooked and we got the system confused. They got everybody with them. They got my sons with them. But do they have them 100% or 80%? Right? So are they going to get to use 100% my son's weaknesses for heroin and all that dumb stuff? Or they're going to kick in something? Or they're going to participate? How much they're going to trap for boss man? And how much they're going to cooperate on our behalf? How much will this, can they tell the differences between 80% cooperation and 85% cooperation? Can they do that? Mesmerize from Mushhead. Mushhead is, Mushhead. Like Baba Kloon and all that. They used to use the term sausage head. It's the second generation that we have psycho-destabilized. That means ran the system crazy. We have ran the system crazy for 2 cycles already. You could go by, sometime we'll go by the proof of it that you can see. You can see a lot of it on the surface. Destabilize meaning of language. In other words, they have something called neologics. I don't have the book, but it comes out of a psychological book. Neologics is a language that's spoken and only the person speaking it understands it. Yeah. Now, if you're dealing with mean old boss man, he's going to keep perfect records of everything, every talk, every whisper, every peep. But how can he track the meaning of the language? The meaning that you give it, right? Remember, you're using neologics. And when we use infiltration, psychological guerrilla warfare, psycholinguistics and all of that, right? You have to keep in mind evolution and revolution. You got to keep it in mind. Because he can have all the satellites, he can have electrodes in your brain, he can have all of that. In fact, the more of that he has, the better it is for you. Because he said, we got this nigga. Right? But psycholinguistics is when you yourself use the same word, but you shift the meaning in your own brain. He's still tracking you according to that meaning that you had 5 years ago. But in evolution, you haven't told him that you have that word, huh? Not a total, but a shade. A shade different. You remember, if you're going to whoop boss man's behind, you can't be overt. You have to have you cannot leave out old coonery. You can't leave it out. Nobody's going to use Amos and Andy and stuff like that. Nobody. No. It's too ridiculous, right? You remember old Kingfish talking about he was giving Andy a test about 20/20 vision. Did the airplane, he was making him a pilot. And he did something. He said, that's 10, and that's 10, that's 20. And then 10 and 10. You got 20, Andy, you got 20/20 vision. See, everybody else voted against Amos and Andy in the 60s and early 70s. Late 60s, early 70s. It said those was coons, and a few of us would run home to see it. The reruns, we loved it. And some of the greatest Negroes, I heard it on the radio 20, 30 years ago. They said, man, I used to run home every afternoon to hear, you know what I mean? And likewise, in fact, I got the whole system of tapes. I don't maybe lost it, but Soon as I put one on, I start laughing. You know, soon as the skylight of New York, Harlem come on, I start laughing. I just be laughing. It ain't said nothing. They ain't did nothing. But you got to remember, use what God give you. That old time Negro stuff that black people had to put up with. It's forgotten art. Nobody knows. The white man don't know it and the Negro don't know it. And I was just a little kid paying attention to it. I thought it was interesting. My father's generation, everybody else, modern people, they like Muhammad Ali. My father's generation liked Jack Johnson. 1910. That was their generation, right? Okay. This stuff is so keep it simple, stupid. It's so simple. But you have to have you have to want to use it. You have to have, it's not courage. You have to have the audacity to use that coon stuff. Mixed with Islam and black nationalism, right? Nobody can figure out what you're going to do. That's why this is not bragging, nor will we get arrogant and loose and where we whoop the white. No, don't worry about none of that. We're grateful. We're grateful to be here. We're thankful to be here. We're appreciative to be here. It ain't no, yeah, I told that white man, I tricked that cracker, da, 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 da. Absolutely not, although that's what happened. Destabilize meaning of language. Have fun. Mukhtar's inspired, call it midnight. What surah do you read at Eid? Yeah. This is simple, but it's very important. Mukhtar is trained almost like that SEAL training. You know, remember he went up to Colorado to do that pistol training. We paid for him to go up there. I mean, where you, he can shoot like that. He can shoot like that. And he could hit what he's shooting at. Right? We sent him there. One time it was $3,000, the other time it was $3,500. Sent him up there to Colorado. What it was Abdul Malik suggested it so he could go out in the open and get counter-terrorist training. I told him that's a good idea. Counter-terrorist training, how he can get training. They teaching him against us. That's what they're teaching him up there. He don't know it. This is not that long ago. This is maybe 15 years ago. He don't know it. Neither one of them know that I know. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a wonderful idea. Okay. So, they would train them like if you're a SEAL in it. If they wake you up in the middle of the night, you should know what your goal is. Right? So my daughters called me downstairs a few months back. Dad, what's the surah? I'm in a deep sleep. What's the surah you read during Eid? And I said, well, it's Surah 87. And they kind of keep me awoke a little. I done already told them. Right? But Mukhtar told them to do that. They called me, asked him to see how focused he is. I knew when they called me and they asked me that, I knew where it came from already. I already knew that. Yeah. Because that's what they teach them. If you're woke up in the middle of the night, right? you have to know what is your mission, what is your goal, right? So they wake me up in the middle of the night and ask me something that I automatically know, and I tell them, sure, it's this. So that messed their brain up because it should be a delay. You know what I mean? That's what they teach them. See, you got to know not only what they're teaching their people, but what is boss man teaching them. Anyway, yeah, you could, okay. Naval SEAL type training. What is your goal? Mission, focus. Okay, we'll kind of skip. America can't make it. The Congress. Look at the Congress. Look at the situation with America right now. It's sad. I mean, it's super sad. So we have here living in predictable times. It don't take much to predict what all of this means. But we've been living in predictable times for decades because right now we're only going into our classical, we call the first period maybe one big stage with different phases within that. Phase 1, phase 2. We may finish up at phase 4. Now we're going into all the stuff, all As-Sabiqun and all those articles, all that thinking. That was in stage 1. In different phases. Let me try to explain it. Now we're going into phase 2. Whole new dynamics. But with those same characteristics that came over to here. If you go into high school, you don't lose your mathematics. You still use the same math that's on a higher level. When you get into university, when you get into chemistry, when you get into all of that, it's the same root, just on a higher level. Living in predictable times. Okay, we have to be fair in assessing. How predictable or how correct over a long period of time has our predictions been about the people, the movement, and about America? How predictable? It's just a question. Just think about it though. How predictable? Encirclement, yeah, okay. What we just talked about is the same principles, but in an elevated war. There was one great country that got caught up during World War II and all this foolishness. Historians say it was on a death ride, a suicide mission. Sooner or later, the people stopped thinking. Just stopped thinking. Message of cooperation with evil. Single-handed counter-offensive against evil. That's what we have launched and are part of now. We are a single group to deal with the one that's cooperating with evil. And we have to launch a counteroffensive. We don't have to. We already have. We've already launched a counteroffensive. And believe it or not, we're not doing too bad. Special position. Okay, advantage. Yeah, special position. Purposeful self-placement. Evaluate nonviolent resistance. Critical mass, the Negro. When the Negro, for the plans that we've talked about, reach critical mass, then they can start discussing kind of openly. But the Negro at the black colleges and everywhere else should do what they always planned to do, join the system, right? But now it's an emergency time to join the system, so if you got associates, join whatever agency you can now and keep going to school. This is what we're saying. Join now, today, tomorrow, and keep going to school, because we don't know the time frame. Just look at how things are escalating. Last year was the car fire up in California. With hurricanes, what? Inside the fire. You know, the little blacksmith thing that pushes air into it and makes the thing hot? What if you got the doggone wind whirling around in a fire? That's why those fires in California now, they're not like an old-time forest fire. They burn this side of the block, they burn this. Look at the houses in Santa Rosa several years back. It looks like a bomb. It blasted. It's different. How boss man can sit on his behind and toy around with the doggone icebergs melting and stuff like that? We got our hands in that crackpot. Those people are crackpots. And our children, our lives, and that we allowing that bum, and he don't care nothing about, nothing reasonable. I was watching the white folks on this, these phones are good because they got all kind of lectures. There's some of the things that we was wondering about the ocean. And when the stuff get way out in the deep ocean, they got some new ways now that they're going to try to clean it up. But it's too slow. But they're on the money. So that lets us know that our thinking on a lot of that stuff, they catch the water when it comes out of the river. And then that stuff that's there right now, they already starting to catch the water coming out of the river. Going in the ocean. But that stuff that's already there, it goes way out to that deep part of the ocean. And it's all floating. So they're working on it. Take the acceleration of forest fires, smoke and destruction and all that, and add it up against the time that we might have to get some of that done. Right? It don't look good. You see what I mean? Okay. That's why we're in a different phase. We got blasted out of the phase earlier this year, last year, several years. Well, we're going to just cruise, and we have 25 years, and I'll die at 100 maybe, and we'll, Nigga ain't got no excuse to language. You don't necessarily have no. 25 years is a long time to put up with what they put into the society. So that's why we're not in a rush, but we're picking up the pace. Because boss man, Look, and he don't say, oh my God, it's 78 degrees in the Arctic Circle. He don't say, oh my God, that's terrible. He reports it on the news like it's another news report. Right? Last year before last, 78 degrees. The water, all that fresh water, is running like, I said, man, this guy is crazy. Yeah, boss man is crazy. But you got to remember, the Quran mentions him. He's not exclusive. They're driven to insanity by the touch of riba. Remember that's in the Quran. Interest. Boss man is touched by all that. More money, more. And no matter what you show him, I need more money. Not that he's not happy or contented with zillions of dollars. And inflation, you see what they're talking about now. Look, some things I go in the store now. I just went out to, what's the name today, and bought some stuff at Sam's. Some of the stuff is the same price. Some of it is 30% higher, 40% higher. And that margarine that I like from the Jewish store, Giant, it was 99 cents a while back. Now it's $1.49. 50% jump. Right? The money, we got to hurry up and sue the boss man for our money out. $200 million. Well, inflation came, we wanted $100 million, then $150 million, and now we need $200 million because inflation. And the people don't know how much stuff we got. Now we're going to really categorize our stuff. We're going to order all of our transcripts from every trial we've ever had, right? And we're going to print those. In those transcripts, verify. Like this idiot talking about Imam Musa, the police. Well, those transcripts won't lie. Just like this clown, where is he at? He's sitting there. I'm coming out of the Masjid almost butt naked. Where's that thing at? Handcuffed behind me, three Mexican police. Why Mexican police? I told you last week. Because in Oakland, the black police know what's going on. They heard about or remember. When I went to the last program I went to in Oakland, at the Infirmary Park, now they called Bobby Hutton Park. One of the police was in, technically he was in our crew. He just threw something by me and he said, man, we're just proud of you and da-da-da-da-da. But he ain't looked at, but he's listening to the talk. You know what I mean? And then I was talking, Fleeta Drungold, his mother was 94. I might have it on that phone. If the phone will crank back up again, an old phone from way back. The point is that they have to use Mexicans to do this because everybody knows, man, that's Big Hank's joint up there. They have to use Mexicans. All those are Mexican police, right? I have not been arrested in Oakland. Is 8 or 10 arrests. I have never been arrested by any black police. They've never had any of them alone. Only one, they had to do it that night because when they brought that military vehicle, it was driven by a black man. So he had to And they relieved him as soon as they could. Right. But it ain't no, in Oakland, this thing goes deep. And even the police department got a feel. They said, man, in Big Hank's administration, it ain't nobody got killed. They didn't. Nobody got killed during, they was saying I was the mayor, so I call it my administration. Nobody that was in the game, I don't know I'm not responsible for niggas that just want to shoot somebody, shoot his cousin or shoot somebody going with it. I'm not responsible. But in the game, there was several years that was tranquility. During the most dominating years of the Black Panther Party, that's why they said, we got to get rid of them niggas. I'm going to speed up as much as I can. For us, implement laws on the books. Mission orientation is constitutionalism. Well, we're black people, but we just want to follow the Constitution of Maryland. Right? Fine. That'll save you. That'll save your behind. Oh, no, we're Constitution of the United States. And it's true. That's your answer. You're not there to do anything against the state. But we have to, the numbers, we have to, some of the dummies, not some of the dummies in Oakland, dumb Mukhtar, yeah, I knew you the police all the time. You knew I was the police all the time, you ignorant so-and-so. Here, you see, you can't get upset with people that are not coherent. You the police. You got Bob Hoffman did this to you. They don't even, why would I respond to people? Can I answer this? Salam alaikum.
Yes, sir.
Lighten up, Diamond.
Yeah, I just finished talking to that girl, and I had sent her a funeral a sonnet, just like the niece.
Right.
And I had sent him a thing of a funeral, the obituary, so they could get an idea of what it's made up like. Anyway, they had people speaking. They said two people.
Did you just kick off? Are you still there? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I call her back.
Right.
Anyway, they said they had too many people, 2 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Then she had words of encouragement. That's me and you. Okay. Ain't no limit on that.
Okay, all right.
The 2 minute people, 2 minute things. Then they had words of encouragement. They had your name and my name.
Uh-huh.
She all she knows is Big Hank. I said, well, what's his real name? I said, Clarence Reeves. That one was in Lone Park. You know what I'm saying? I said, that's been Clarence Reeves. She said, okay. My name is Warren Jackson, but I'll bring you to who I am, a.k.a. Diamond, because a lot of people don't know me by that. You know?
Right.
A lot of people, anyway, I don't know why this thing disappeared again.
Okay. Can I call you back in I'm doing a class right now, okay?
Oh, okay, my brother. Okay, I'll just let you know this. Okay.
Yeah. I'm doing a class, and we're talking about a lot of things that happen there in Oakland, So I'll call you back as soon as I finish the class, inshallah. All right. Thanks for calling. Yeah. Okay. That's one of the people that was part of what we was doing in Oakland, passed away, and they're trying to get the funeral together and everything. But the stuff takes so long, they're not gonna He might have passed away 2 weeks ago, and they're not going to have the funeral until another 2 weeks from now. I don't know what it is. But anyway, I'll deal with that in a little while later. So anyway, we've been here for decades. Rise to the level necessary to solve the problems of our time. In the past, it might have been one thing, to now, there's a more urgency on it. I mean, this is more, you can see it and taste it. Technically, it ain't no joke, right? This is prophetic times. This is historical, religious times when, doom and gloom and all of that is real. And we're here, it seems as though we're being given a chance to deal with it. Okay. Go ahead.
I've been trying to get the feel of if people, realizing that the urgency and, seeing what we're talking about.
Right.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay. That's the thing about, remember, whether they get it or not, we still have to remember where Allah tells the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it's your job to teach openly and clearly. It's my job, or not, that's not, to call them to account. Because the Prophet, peace be upon him, was worried, the poor Arabs don't have sense and they don't know Allah is one and all of that. It's not your job. You teach them, I'll call them to account. That is one of the, in movement and in history, that's one of the very most important characteristics of an Islamic worker. That he realized that, okay, what is my job at this time? What are the perimeters I'm working in? Okay, what are the possibilities? And they stretch as far as they can, and they do what they can. Okay, if the people don't listen, that's up to them. You see what I mean? We're not going to stop by the graveyard like Jesus supposed to have said, let the dead bury their dead. In other words, Lazarus, if you would have been here, he wouldn't have died. Something or stuff like that. Forget the poison book. Anyway, what you mean if I wouldn't have been here, I would? What you talking about? Let the dead bury the dead. The dead people? That's what he was saying. We wouldn't say it like that. That's kind of terrible. The dead people are burying the dead people. They're walking around, but they're dead, and they're mobile, but they're dead. They're not doing nothing else. Okay. So let me speed up a little bit. Inspirational focus on mission in writing, speaking. The style of infiltration, informed infiltration, focused infiltration, purposeful infiltration, This is the type of infiltration that we were talking about. Informed infiltration, that means that people are informed about the time, space that we're living in. So, we're going to as many universities as we can get to, mostly black ones, but we're going to tell other people, invite us everywhere. And we're just going to tell them, hey, we're going to explain to them time, circumstances which we're living in, and the way things look. If job stability but not maximum money is what you could sacrifice making more money and getting a stable job. Stuff that they tell niggas all the time, black people. Okay. First of all, most Negroes are going to get a government job anyway. Okay, they become test wise. You give them 10 years, they'll be sergeants, captains, lieutenants, and they'll have a position. And the white folks, the same message. So they're running around trying to save the whales out there, put out forest fires, and being a park ranger. Yeah, be a park ranger where you can carry a gun and you can do that and you get in there. All of you tree huggers, join up with that system where you'll have some authority. You see what I mean? They have to understand how fast are we working. Okay, if you spike a tree with a big metal rod and the people trying to cut it down, you kill one guy, because that chainsaw, it'll erupt. They spike trees. It's kind of mean because it's killing a lumberjack or hurting a lumberjack, not the mean old white man up in the boss. So we have to educate the people about doom and gloom. It almost sounds like the end of the world is coming and get in the ark. Except this time the ark is save the forest, right? Clean up the water, clean up the air, right? Get in a position where one person can train 10 people in his community and he can buy, since he's an official, as many guns as he wants. He can have a house like white folks have, gun racks. And each one of our people can be responsible for 5 or 10 others. He'll take them shooting and hiking and stuff. Right? Why not? Still get enough money. But the last thing that will go will be the police departments and all of that, right? It's the last thing to go because that's what's keeping it together. We want those people on our side. Yeah, we want those people by the numbers. And recently, white folks start quitting, but they're going to be back in a hurry, right? They start quitting. And down, there ain't enough money. Forget about the amount of money. Get in the position. Pray that everybody leaves the department. Right? Because if African Americans and Latinos and other so-called minorities have a position where they can manage 20% of this, 30%, they in pocket, which includes the military. If they're in a position where they only have 10% of the people, they can still do some good, but they can't protect every neighborhood, right? They got to have some strategic position. When all of a sudden they look up and they say, we're for protecting America. Yeah. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. Now, these crackpots don't have no plan. You never hear them saying anything. They don't raise no money. They don't do it. It's not that they don't have no money, but that piece of property they sold out there in buildings was 8,000 square feet, and it was the lots was another 8,000 square feet. That was 16,000 square feet. That's a nice, right? And remember, the tax was about $5,000, or the city tax. So what the heck is it? What they sell? That's a lot of money. Mukhtar don't have that property. And when I was here, With Baba Kloon, I just tell him every day, yeah, man, they're going to sell our property out there. They're going to sell our property out there. Oh, my goodness, they're going to. And they sold it. He told them to sell it. Because I told him to tell them to sell it. We've been managing this all along. That's why nobody's upset about nothing. I'm going to speed up and close. I'll just go through General Headquarters, Strategic Research, assemble court records, arrest records, use court records trial, especially 1970, raise, use court arrest documents, especially court documents. Officer Dillon, as a police, note from their possession. Oh my goodness, the federal court. See, when they would set me up years ago, it would be ridiculous. I'm getting my court records and trial records from day one. You know, clean as a whistle. Yes, I am. I got some of them now. And when I read them, we're home free. Imagine when I get all of them and put them there. The pattern is clear. Okay. Historical Negro legal abuse. We'll keep going, but that's what it means. Project 2 or 3 tracks. Yeah. Personal self, student, legal teams, assemble UC Berkeley research team, maybe even a Howard team. But we will start assembling the stuff right now. We'll start, we already started. Include transcripts. Organize your challenge to the system with their own records. You'd be shocked with some of the stuff they have. Yeah, okay. Conspiracy, police arrest, bail system, lawyer. It's all clear. The lawyers, the judges, the bail, all up working together. Like on me, I would get tickets and arrested and searched all the time for years just because I wouldn't have a driver's license. I wouldn't have a driver's license because I didn't have insurance. All my lawyer had to do was tell me, you just have insurance and all the probable cause and all that goes away. But I'm busy and he never mentioned it. Yeah, my lawyers never mentioned it. With all the money they're getting. And why would they? Because every time I'm arrested, it's a new case. And I have to have a new bail. Right? The bail's bombing. Did I ever show you the papers, the bail stacks? I was their hustle. I mean, a good hustle. The lawyer, the police, the lawyers is using the police to arrest me. They happy. Arrest him. Then he has to pay us more money. And he has to bail out. The bail's bombing is sitting there grinning all the time. Oh, I'm so sad you get arrested. You're sad? That's really something. Okay. We have lectures from 83 that talks about this system. That's, okay. Order, assemble, court, We, surveillance record, CIA record of Africa. Greatest story ever told. It's already written. It's already written in their records. All we have to do is collect the records and copy them. That's all we're going to do. But we're going to write what it means. But the record is already there. How I was arrested. Why I was arrested. The first arrest, 3 police come up. I look out the window, there they are. It's a federal officer, the vice squad, and I think a state narcotics bureau. They coming up to my house. I see out the window. So, boop. All they do is say, well, they don't have no right to come in the house. They say, well, we heard something in the mailbox and all of that. Well, they put something in the mailbox and say, oh, it came from apartment A. What they said. When they go in my apartment and start searching, you know what they said? This one saves his money. Because I had bank books, and all that. They said, this one saves his money. Okay, it was already a setup. So they want to get a profile of, Okay, Negro trap, national historical behavior. Judge Lionel Wilson, well, we're going to get in other words, I just make it, we're going to get all the legal stuff and arrange it. That's part of the archives, right? That's part of the historicizing, right? That's part of the Chronicle. Their own story. Can you imagine? Their own story will convict them. Okay. Critical mass Negroes. When you get to a certain percentage, then begin to talk about what the real mission is. But the real mission is not subversion. It's interjecting yourself in in the system in order to save yourself and your friends and your family. Yeah. National call, national mobilization, Islamic liberation movement of Oakland. Okay. Prepare facilities to receive psychological asymmetric warfare. As-Sabiqun liberation movement, Oakland, D.C. Technically, although we won't use this term, this would be classified as a national war of liberation. National war of liberation. Okay, we don't want to be overwhelming, but let's go over part of it again. We got the system spooked. We got the system confused, mesmerized. They don't know what to do because they never dealt with a real Negro before that can roll the dice out of either hand and kick them with his feet. They don't know how to deal with it. I know they don't. It don't make no difference whether other people do, but if you've been here any time, you've seen that something different is going on right here. And the longer we stay here, the more we see that it is our centralized job to participate in rescuing the Negro from himself and, of course, the system. And it's an honor to be in that position. The Negro may not want to get rescued, but we're going to rescue him anyway. Yeah, you will, Mr. Negro, you will be rescued. That's our job. You know, when you study your life and you figure what is my mission in life, sometimes you're dealt a hand that describes your mission. Sometimes you got to find it and experiment, right? Sometimes you use all that stuff together, and that's why we've came to this. If you could turn that air off just a bit. This is our job. Okay. Are there any questions? Are there any comments so far? Okay. Evolution, devolution, Remember we was talking about the meaning of words and their application? Well, evolution means one thing 2 years ago, the same as revolution might have. And they don't know when revolution becomes or degrades, devalued, devolution, to go back into evolution. Because revolution is a quick, sudden change, and evolution is a long, slow process. Yep. The combination with meanings and application. What percentage? We talked about neologics and new language, the language that only the person speaking it know what it means. This is from a psychology book. It's back in the 70s, but that's what neologics mean. It's a new language that only the speaker knows what it means. Yep, and only us know what we're talking about here. The white man don't know, and the Negroes don't know. These people doing the stuff, they have no idea of what's going on. Just like Boss Man dumped the Afghanis over there, his Afghanis, he didn't spend millions training them and feeding them, and he turned it all over to the Taliban. How many times do you have to tell the Negro that Boss Man gonna dump you? It don't make no difference whether he gonna dump him. He can't do nothing else because we already know who he is, right? And we're gonna do our job. We're gonna do our job. We have been doing our job, and we're really rising to the occasion now because there's a time limit that seems to be historical Negro legal abuse. Okay, we didn't went through all that. Research teams. Organize your challenge to the system with their own records. They got everything on record. We just get their records and put them out. It's going to shock you, some of the stuff that they say. Yeah. So we're on a new roll right now. And thanks to Allah, that it feels good because it's clear about, sometime you're waiting and, to figure out what you're going to do, or for, signs and symbols. And when it kick in, you're ready. That's what's happened. That's what has already happened. Yep. That's why we'll turn that building into a cultural, whatever center, informational center. And that one will be the same thing, except if people come from in town or out of town, they could stay there. We'll fix that up where they could stay over there or something. Remember, that has upstairs and downstairs. And the people we're inviting, it'll be comfortable enough for them. In fact, we're not trying to work with, we work with it, but nature lovers, all that stuff. Because everybody's got the message. This is the time for the message that we're instituting. As-Sabiqun message from years ago was that time. And remember, between then and now, it's been 10 years. The last As-Sabiqun was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, 2011. It don't seem like nothing to me, but that's a long time. 10 years ago? Okay, are there any questions or any comments? Anything about this Oakland story, our story, or what we're really going to be doing technically? One thing I'd like to mention, it won't be no 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Won't be none of that. That was the idea from way back. It'll be constantly moving forward. That means on psychological, political, spiritual, and everything. We don't have the time to turn back or go back. Yep. So are there any questions or any comments? None? Okay. So alhamdulillah. Does any of this make sense to anybody? Well, then what should we do during this period? We got some ideas, but what does anyone think about this, the policy of Negroes joining the system instead of avoiding the system? Does it make sense at this time? Yeah. No doubt about that. You don't have to convince it. Hey, man, you don't have to do too much. Right. Reinforce. Right. Yeah. It's a welcoming message. The only thing is the George Floyd, all of that will help. Excuse me 1 second. This is our friend here. Let's see what they say. Just for a minute. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, walaikum assalam. You have me on live finally because since nobody won't tell you anything, maybe I should tell them.
Well,
Reams have been nothing but a phony. You have an FBI number, Reams. You could slander.
could you tell me? Wait a minute. Just a minute. What is my number? What is my FBI number? Khadija, don't say that.
All the time.
What is my FBI number, girl? You ain't got my number? You ain't got it? What is the number? What is the number? You said I got it. What's the number? What's the number? What?
The Oakland Enterprise Club. You lied about everything.
East Oakland Enterprises?
Yeah, it never was there. Nobody can find it. You can Google everything. You can't Google
Oh,
it.
you can't find the paper. Without this after me. Answer this. Do you think we would write down East Oakland Enterprise on a damn piece of paper and that's what? Wasn't nobody having all them Cadillacs and houses? They didn't have all of them?
You only have one Cadillac left. All them pictures was phony. You know
all these pictures is phony? What about all the other Cadillacs for everybody else? What about all the Negro Cadillacs?
For everybody who's listening,
Oh,
don't believe them falsehood. Don't believe them.
I got to go, girl. Got to go. Well, everybody do know. So, alhamdulillah, that's called fishing. No. Negro on the line. That's why I answered that. That's what we do. We want to, Hey, that's good. No, it works all the time. It always works. Hey, only thing I can say is thanks to Allah, alhamdulillah. Right? And they don't mind lying, you know. You ain't never bought nobody no Cadillac. You had one Cadillac, good God Almighty. Maybe I had 10, I don't know what it was. And everybody else too. And I'll close with this. East Oakland Enterprises, the whole idea in 1968, 69, 70, and 71 was to do what Martin Luther King wanted to do in Chicago. He moved to Chicago to initiate an economic program, right? That's what he moved to Chicago to do. He was not successful. But in Oakland, we were the only place in the United States that was successful because of the wealth And because if it's your wealth and you're going to spread it around, you don't have to go to the board of directors. And so if you're that type of person, you could make it work. If the police think that you're going to do one thing with the money and you do another, but you fool the police. Oh, I know I say this every time, but let me show you the trick. I know y'all seen this, not a rabbit out of the hat, but you'll see the trick. This is the trick. See the free Huey Newey butt? Free Huey. This will get a nigga killed. This is 1968. This is 1969, late. This is the car to go with it, all of that. Black and white, right? That's why it worked, because once you get more money than you know what to do with, right? You spread it around for everybody to get some of it. And that's something that people didn't do. All the other crews in Oakland and the rest of the world, they got money for themselves. That's why they never got that's why they didn't, this is the only one, like when you see the people from Algeria, we the only ones that took the brothers any money to Algeria. Because we had learned the purpose of money is to be free, not to be tied to it. We learned you got to get enough of it to learn that lesson, though. Nobody ever got enough, and it seemed like ain't nobody getting enough now, whether it's Bezos or Wazos, and they got trillions of dollars, and they haven't found that money is to make you happy. These idiots. That money is supposed to aid and assist you in making you happy, whatever your happiness is. So if you want to see all the Negroes rich, and there's some boxes over there, you say you want to manage some fights, go in there and get the Oakland Auditorium, bring your fighters in. And here's, we have all of those people. We train together and all of that, and that's what they did. The only reason it didn't fly higher is because they were not Don King. They didn't know managing, when you're a boxer or a trainer, managing is, maybe I was taking them, I took the people too fast. That's what it is. There's nothing I could do. I couldn't slow it down because, I didn't. What I'm trying to say is, this is another time. On every time that we didn't have any resource, we didn't use it for the masses more than ourselves. And now, again, I stay right down there, right? Downstairs, anybody saw what it looks like down there? It's just, okay. That's what I do. I don't want anything. You see what I mean? That's the key. I don't want what everybody else wants. I don't want it. I don't want it. So whatever money I get, I'm going to use it for that. That's all I'm going to use it for. That's all I'm going to close with this. That's all we've ever used. If the school, in 10 years, if it was $500,000 spent, it was spent because it was fun to spend it on the kids. They became brilliant. Can you imagine? Look at the number of our kids. It's almost 98 or 100% of them are in the best schools in the country, right? My two daughters go up to Boston. It's in Boston, white folk schools up there. Everybody else, what's the name, kids? They're studying Googleometry and all of that, right? What? And good grades? Good grades was natural. And they was using that DC thing. That thing had them 2 and 3 years ahead of DC. When they go to junior high school, when they go to high school, they said, Dad, we had that years ago. I looked at their 5th grade tests on internationals. And they had a question on there about what was that thing they had? The League of Nations. Why did the U.S. have this influence? Well, the U.S. never joined the League of Nations. The Senate didn't approve it. So it's like the JPOC or whatever it is. The Senate never approved it, so it was never a real treaty, right? They never belonged to it. So man, they be cutting you out. That was in the 4th or 5th grade. They had all them questions. I had to research every question they had. Well, I knew them kind of. Okay, so well, we're off and running, and this is a good time, and I don't visualize anything could go wrong, because if you do right, everything is right. It don't matter what happened. How do I phrase that? And I'll close. If you do right, whatever happens is fine, because you did right. You see what I mean? So, alhamdulillah. And we're going to go back out there in Oakland. We're going to straighten out all of that. We're going to sue the government. We're going to do all kind of good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that's where we're headed. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. Akula Kali Hada.